site here in Seneca Falls, where the first convention for women's rights began here in 1848. My name is Barbara Bartoletti. I am Legislative Director for the New York State League of Women Voters, and I am so pleased to be here with Governor Cuomo and Myla Dinnerstein with an issue that has been dear to the League's heart for many, many years. The League, as many of you in this audience know, particularly if you've gone through the Visitor Center, and for those of you who live in this area, the Seneca Falls site is of particular interest to the League because, as an organization, the League is the outgrowth of women's suffrage, and this is where it began here in New York State. And today, we sincerely hope that within the next 9 to 10 days, New York equality, women's equality for fairness and equality in economics, in our homes, in our health care, for our daughters, for our granddaughters, for our mothers. We sincerely hope that this women's equality becomes the law in New York State, much as the right to vote started here and ended with that important right that we so cherish today. First of all, I would like to acknowledge some very important people here in the audience. So if you just kind of wave when I announce your name, people can see who you are, although I think most of you probably are well known in this area. First is Don Early, Seneca Falls Town Supervisor. Is Don here? Don. Ted Young, who is the Mayor of Waterloo. Cindy Gerlich Lorenzetti, Fayette Town Supervisor. Yes, right there, yes. Savante Myrick, Mayor of Ithaca. Okay. Carol Lee Conklin, Rochester City Council Member. Yes, okay. Bonnie Bennett, who is the Mayor of Aurora. Carla DeShaw, who is the Mayor of Canastota. And Mark Guerin, who is Hobart and William Smith College President. Yes. I am just going to outline and introduce, I'm going to outline just quickly and then introduce the woman who will tell us a great deal more about the women's equality. Women's equality as constructed by Governor Mario, oh my goodness. Does that say how old I am? Does that say how old I am? Under Andrew Cuomo, our governor, outlined in his 2013 State of the State message, when I think everyone in that convention center was absolutely electrified when Governor Cuomo stood up and outlined the 10 items that would be a part of his women's agenda. These are 10 items that will make women's lives better in all ways, from the home to the job to their health care. And we began from that day a group of women who comprised the steering committee that Governor Andrew Cuomo put together for us, gathered us all together, which has become a coalition with 850 members, a coalition of women representing everything from labor to civic to health, across the spectrum, from the very progressive to the business-oriented. We came together, we formed this coalition, and as a very long-time advocate in Albany, I have sat as a member of many coalitions. This coalition is a coalition beyond anybody's dreams. These are, I might add, all women. They work by consensus, they work quickly, they work with the governor's staff on a steady basis, and together we think we have forged what will be nation leading in the progressive agenda to protect women's lives all the way across the spectrum. So with that, I would like to introduce the young woman who has worked diligently and over many hours with us to really get this agenda done. The Governor's Council, Mylan Dennerstein.
Okay, I'm so thrilled to be here with all of you. This is my first time in Seneca Falls, so thank you so much. As Barbara has said, my name is Mylan Dennerstein, and I am counsel to Governor Cuomo. And what I really want to thank Barbara for, first of all, is because she said I'm young. And that's great. And can you tell my kids that? They don't feel the same way. And thank you so much for everybody for being here. And thank you especially to the National Park Service for letting us have this wonderful event at the Wesleyan Chapel here at the Women's Rights National Historical Park. Thank you so much. So it's now my pleasure to start talking about the Women's Equality Act, which is the bill that Governor Cuomo, my favorite boss, introduced yesterday. New York is the equality capital of the nation. In 1848, the women's suffrage movement began at the first Women's Rights Convention right here in Seneca Falls, and I think it's fantastic that we're here today to talk about this act. 1969, the Stonewall riots began, the gay rights movement that swept across the nation. 2011, I had the proud honor to work with the governor, and New York State became the largest state in the United States to pass marriage equality. Woo! And the rest of the nation followed. But we all know we have more to do. We have not reached full equality in our society. And that's why Governor Cuomo is forging the way with the 10-point Women's Equality Act. Point 1, shatter the glass ceiling, let's achieve pay equity. Point 2, stop sexual harassment. Point 3, remove barriers to remedying discrimination. Point 4, end family status discrimination. 5, stop source of income discrimination. 6, stop housing discrimination for victims of domestic violence. 7, let's protect victims of domestic violence by strengthening orders of protection laws. And 8, let's strengthen our human trafficking laws. And 9, let's stop pregnancy discrimination. And 10, let's protect a woman's freedom of choice. We all know it's a reality. Women do not earn the same as men. It's a fact. Women earn 84% of what men earn, and over a lifetime, $500,000 less than men. The Women's Equality Act strengthens the law to ensure that women receive the wages they are entitled to for doing the same jobs that men are doing. It's very simple. We're doing the same work, the same job, same experience, same skill set. We should be paid the same. 2, there is no place for sexual harassment in the workplace. Women file the vast majority of sexual harassment complaints. However, women who work for employers with fewer than 4 employees can't file complaints because the law, it's only for 4 or greater. The interesting fact is 60% of all businesses have fewer than 4 employees. So what will the Women's Equality Act do? Ban sexual harassment in all workplaces. We have 0 tolerance for sexual harassment. 3, let's remove barriers to remedying discrimination. In sex-based employment discrimination cases, 77% are filed by women. Victims cannot recover attorney's fees if they prevail. And obviously, this creates a disincentive to file a lawsuit if you can't find a lawyer or you can't afford to pay one, and you don't have an opportunity to perhaps recover attorney's fees. We're going to ensure that women are made whole if they are discriminated against by providing attorney's fees to women who prevail in sex-based employment discrimination cases. End family status discrimination. It's a fact, women with children are less likely to be hired and promoted. There is an undercurrent that the person will not work as hard, or their children may perhaps get in the way of them doing the job that's needed. I like to remind people on this point that women are responsible for both men and women, because as far as I know, there's only one way to have a baby, and that's a woman has to do it. So the Women's Equality Act will prohibit employers from denying work or promotions based solely on whether the individual has children. Stop source of income discrimination. What does that mean? Well, female-headed households in New York account for the vast majority of those who receive Section 8 vouchers, which are vouchers which enable them to pay for housing in our state. And under current law, a landlord can simply refuse to accommodate the person, even though they are capable of paying for the apartment. So what we want to do is stop discrimination. So prohibit discrimination in housing based on lawful source of income, aiding women who receive this type of assistance in finding safe and decent housing for their families. We must stop housing discrimination for victims of domestic violence. 85% of all victims of domestic violence are women. About 1 in 4 will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetimes. However, our current law doesn't protect victims of domestic violence from discrimination in housing. Our Women's Equality Act prohibits landlords from discriminating against victims of domestic violence. We're also going to protect victims of domestic violence by strengthening orders of protection. It's a difficult thing to pursue an order of protection. It's not easy, and we want to make sure our laws do as much as possible to make it capable for the person to receive, for the woman to receive an order of protection. So we want to make sure that women receive in-court translation of orders of protection so they understand them, and also to allow victims of domestic violence to apply for them remotely under certain circumstances where it may be too difficult for them to go to court. And we need to strengthen our human trafficking laws. Protections for women and girls who fall victim to human trafficking can and must be strengthened. The Women's Equality Act will increase penalties for human trafficking to deter criminals and make prosecution enforcement more effective. What this is really about is making sure that our laws, in particular, punish people who use minors, girls, under 18, as prostitutes, and make it easier for prosecutors to bring these types of cases. 9, we must stop pregnancy discrimination. Current protections for working pregnant women are confusing and often misinterpreted. The Women's Equality Act would provide that employers, if the woman has a medical condition relating to her pregnancy, must do a reasonable accommodation analysis to see whether or not they can accommodate the woman while she is pregnant. And 10, we must protect a woman's freedom of choice. New York state law protecting a woman's freedom of choice is outdated, and it is not aligned with federal law and the current state practice. It's as simple as that. The Women's Equality Act codifies the existing U.S. Supreme Court law in Roe v. Wade to protect a woman's right to choose and ensure that New York's laws are consistent with the law of the land for 40 years and our state practice. For too long, New York's laws have not protected women's rights. But New York has always been the nation's leader on equality, and we must take the lead again, and we can, and we will, with the Women's Equality Act. It's now my great pleasure to invite the governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo, the leader behind the Women's Equality Act, to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. First, Mylan Dennerstein, isn't she great? Mylan is my counsel now in the governor's office. She was with me in the attorney general's office. She is a fantastic, fantastic lawyer. She's also a great mother. She's a great wife. And she's been a great counsel to the people of the state of New York, and she's worked incredibly, incredibly hard on this. Let's give her another round of applause, Mylan Dennerstein. Barbara Bartoletti, she is a champion, as you can tell. She is a champion for women's rights. She's an institution in Albany and state government. She did work with the other Cuomo. What was his name again, the other Cuomo? Mario Cuomo. I think Barbara likes Mario Cuomo better, I'll tell you the truth. She did work with Mario Cuomo, and I'll tell you in many ways what my father believes, what he stands for, what he did as governor. He was the first governor to champion women's equality. We used a different set of words and a different set of laws. But in principle, everything we're talking about today, he fully endorsed. And I do credit him for the women's equality agenda. Let's give him a round of applause. But Barbara's right, this has been a phenomenal act of women empowerment. And we have hundreds and hundreds of groups all across the state that organized in a way I've never seen it done in any campaign, in any lobbying effort. And this entire operation is being driven by women. Barbara knows that. Barbara always likes to make sure that I remember that. We were walking in just now past the wall, and there's the little plaque of 3 or 4 men. And Barbara stopped and said, "See, men could even be helpful back then. The way you're trying to be helpful now, Governor." Barbara Bartoletti, let's give her a round of applause. And you could obviously not have a more appropriate setting. Or a more powerful and poignant setting for what we're talking about today. Because as it was back then, the message is very simple, and it's very clear, and it's binary. It's black and white. Sometimes there is a right and a wrong position. And what this starts with today, and what I'm most proud of, was the truth that we spoke to the people of the state of New York when in January we said in the State of the State that this is a society that discriminates against women. It is that blunt a statement, but it is that blunt a reality. And I believe you're never going to solve a problem that you refuse to admit, or that you're afraid to admit. You're never going to solve a problem that you deny. We discriminate against women in this society. And we have for decades, and with all our sophistication, and with all our advancement, and with all our ability to lead nations around the world, we still discriminate against women. It's like that old cartoon of the king's clothes. It's been there. We all know it. Everyone would admit it, but nobody wanted to say it. Because there's pain in the recognition of that truth. And in many ways, it's so repugnant to who we think we are, and who we believe we are, and everything we do, and everything we espouse, not just as New Yorkers, but as Americans. But it is true. We discriminate against women. It is pervasive. It's in banking. It's in lending. It's in business. It is a societal issue. It is a cultural issue that we have to address, that we have to confront, and that we have to say once and for all as a society, it is not right, it is wrong, it is not fair, and we will not tolerate discriminating against women in the state of New York in any manner, shape, or form, period. It is not legal, and it's not going to be legal, and we're not going to tolerate it. And it starts with a basic sense of fairness and human rights. You look at the facts on pay equity. How can you be in 2013, you don't pay women the same amount of money for the same job as a man? Women make 84 cents to a man's dollar. I have 3 daughters. Cara, Mariah, Michaela, you're telling me that my daughters are not worth what a boy is worth from birth? That there's something in a genetic makeup of being a female that makes them value a lower value than a male? Baloney. Baloney is just not right, and it's not fair. Issue of domestic violence. Much worse than this society has admitted. It is more common, more prevalent than we care to admit all through society. This is not a problem in some area or some demographic groups. It is a scourge on society, again, a problem we don't want to admit because we're ashamed of it. And we have victims of domestic violence, and we don't even give them the proper care and protection in giving them assistance as victims. Human trafficking is real. We had a young lady join us yesterday in the Capitol who told a story that was just unbelievable. How she was victimized from the age of 9 years old, forced prostitution, 13 years old. And that's, again, the duality and the injustice that women face in this society. It's not right, it's not fair, it's a question of basic human rights. There's nothing overly sophisticated or complex about it. We talk to nations around the globe about it all the time, treating women with full equality. Let us practice what we preach. That's the first point. And not only is it not right and not fair and not moral, it's not even smart. It's not even smart as a society. We want to compete as Americans with countries around the globe. Here's how we can compete. Let's bring all of our people, and let's bring all of our people into participating in this society to the best of their God-given talents. Let's all our women compete and get paid as much and go as far as their talents allow them to go. Let's promote women and pay them equally, and let's lead this globe by saying, you know why we're doing so well? Because our women are full partners in our society, and they're full partners in our business, in our school, and in our government. And when this country actually has its women doing everything they can do, then we will be as strong as we can be. And that's part of what this is about today. Why New York? Because New York does have a special place. My friend Mark Gearin is here today, and Mark and I were in the Clinton administration. We were in the federal government, and we worked with all the states all across the country, and all the states are special, and they have special assets. But I tell you, I am so pleased and honored to be a New Yorker, because this state really is special, and this state is unique. And it is fitting that New York State makes this point and raises this banner and carries this crusade. Why? Because New York has always played this role. New York leads, and it has from day one. And when it comes to social issues or progressive issues, it's been the state of New York that went first and lit the path for other states to follow. Certainly, we did it here in Seneca Falls, 1848. We gave birth to the women's rights movement. We did it at Stonewall. We gave birth to the gay rights movement. We did it with the workers' rights movement after the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. We gave birth to the environmental movement on the Storm King controversy on the Hudson River. We dealt with these complex issues first, and we addressed them, and we pointed to the progressive future, and the rest of the nation followed. We can do the same thing here with women's equality. And we will make this state a better state, and other states will follow our example. This is a law that shouldn't even require a government action, because it's not about government. And you don't really need a governor or a council to the governor or a state legislature to tell us what we know. Women are full partners in this society, and they are equal. They are our mothers, they are our sisters, they are our daughters, and let's embrace them fully into society and let the discrimination end, and let it end now, once and for all. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for coming out today to hear this important message. And I'm going to just put my advocate's cap on for a few short seconds to just say that you too have a responsibility for this act. You too have representatives in Albany. Call them, email them, talk to them when they're home here in their districts. Make them understand that this is an important law that must be done within the next 9 to 10 days. Tell them clearly, please don't come home without this being done. Thank you so much for coming today.